Now let's get set to make sense of what the newspaper headlines are saying.
That's right. We will be looking at the top stories shaping the agenda of the day. Let's begin with this day newspaper. In this day this morning, we have to plug revenue leakages, boost transparency, FG unveils Treasury receipt. And Yusuf Tugar, Tinubu pursuing Nigeria's strategic autonomy amid Trump's tariffs and China ties. Dangote reveals plans to more than double 650,000 barrels per day oil refinery to 1.4 million BPD. Daily Independent, credit drought threatens Nigeria's food security goals, and Senate plans shifting burden of election petition proof to INEC. FG to invest $220 million in job creation for Nigerian youth. The Daily Times, reps to probe $460 million Abuja CCTV project as insecurity soars. NNPCL generates 4.26 trillion naira revenue in August, remits 10 trillion to Federation account. There's also electoral reformation. INEC must be responsible for burden of proof in litigations. Daily Sun, Nnamdi Kanu buckles set to open defense. Election petitions, that's the same story. INEC now has to prove there's no rigging if this is passed. This is during the ongoing electoral reform. Dangote reduces stake in refinery business to 65% plus listing on NGS. Reasons we suspended 2-week warning strike ASU. Osun 2026 PDP APC trade accusations over unabating violence. The Tribune, why Nigeria should not be designated country of concern according to Bishop Kuka. The Leadership newspaper, still on Dangote refinery, proposed 10% stake sale excites Nigerian investors. Kanu opens defense, lists Wike Omahi Buratai others as witnesses, and lecturer suspends strike. Also, 2027 Sanwo-Olu Fashola Ambode back Tinubu. We've seen that story yesterday. The Guardian newspaper this morning, FG begins public finance reforms ahead of new tax regime in January. Northern leaders back Tinubu as opposition cautions APC alleges attack. Senate silent on early voting, shifts electoral burden of proof to INEC. The Punch, ISWAP threat, Southwest North Central states on high alert. Electoral reform, Senate pushes INEC to defend electoral results. And Sanwo-Olu monarch hailed Oyebanji at road inauguration. Moving on to the international headlines, The Guardian newspaper, fresh turmoil as candidate for chair quit toxic grooming gang inquiry. Deported in one in, one out scheme back in the UK. Daily Graphic, AG unveils 78.2 million Ghana cedi buffer stock scandal. The Citizens newspaper, Joe Buck's Cape Flat killing fields. Moving on to newspaper, raise income tax reefs urged as labor budget split emerge. The Daily Mirror, unmasked, there was a knife murder at a school, and so the accused murderer has been convicted in the UK. And finally, the Times newspaper, grooming victims say minister should quit, and US sanctions Russian oil farms but denies approving missile strikes. Let's then return to this day newspaper and start with the lead story on plugging revenue leakages and boosting transparency. So we have a new platform now. It is called the Treasury receipt. The Treasury receipt is expected to digitally track government funds and expenditure. This receipt is viewed as a groundbreaking platform that will hopefully lead to more confidence in the running of resources as well as the management. With this, every receipt issued by the government will correspond with funds received in government accounts, and it's also going to be deployed alongside what is being called the Central Billing System, another platform as well. Well, enhanced transparency and real-time monitoring is something that citizens have always asked for, and the government here is taking steps towards that in order to stop the diversion of public funds, which has proven to be quite common in the country. There have been similar initiatives introduced in the past. There was the Treasury single account and the integrated personnel and payroll information system. So a good step, or a step in the right direction.
I'm particularly happy that the federal government is thinking about promoting accountability within the public service framework, and also restoring public trust in the government's management of public funds. But I have some worries because when you look at the launch of the federal treasury receipts and the central, which is meant to work along with the central billing system under the revenue optimization platform, it raises some questions. What happens to our institutions? Are we merely duplicating some of this issue? And how would we be able to track real-time transactions from the funds received and what has been spent? The Honorable Minister should be able to explain the how. Because we have, because it also talked about pricing system and bringing up price intelligence, which is under the statutory function of the Bureau of Public Procurement. So I would say that already we have the Auditor General of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, which is to check some of these leakages, and we also have the Bureau of Public Procurement. What we need to do is to do a reform that will strengthen these institutions, and make them very autonomous, and also strengthen them and equip them with the necessary facilities that would make them ensure transparency and accountability within the public service framework. The IMF raised recently that there was leakages, illicit financial flows coming from stolen public funds.
Yes.
So it's a shame on the country if we continue to midwife and preserve this narrative.
Okay, so I understand your concerns, but according to this report, this federal treasury receipt is supposed to ensure that there's real-time monitoring of the monies that are moving.
But how?
And what it's a digital system. It's a digital system. So you're not asking me how I'm sitting here with. It's a digital system that, you know, once transactions are being conducted, you can follow and you can track those transactions. And it also says that it will correspond with the amount that you already have in the account. So this is what we're being told. The thing is, will it actually work? Will you allow the system to work? Like I mentioned previously, we had the TSA, we had the EPs. There have been challenges in that regard.
Absolutely.
However, yes, you need those automated digital systems to ensure that, you know, human intervention is reduced, you know, to the barest minimum. So we'll see whether this works out. However, you do need this kind of
I agree with you that we need to reduce the human element in tampering with the value chain of the funds released and also the expenditure framework. That's absolutely a step in the right direction.
All right, the second story in this day, Dangote reveals plans to more than double 650,000 barrels per day oil refinery to 1.4 million. Is set to list 10% shares by next year, and says company is pursuing Middle East partners. He's a very ambitious man, you know, with a big vision. At the height of the crippling obstacles that he faced, you know, building that refinery, Dangote himself shared that he almost gave up, and that if he had understood the challenges and the obstacles from the beginning, he probably would not have embarked on this project. But here we are. He's actually expanding, you know, and so it is noteworthy also. We have that other refinery that is coming up in Akwa Ibom State, being built by Boa Group. So the Boa Group refinery is about 200,000 barrels per day, petrochemical plant and refinery in Akwa Ibom State. They will produce gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and others, and it's for local and domestic market. So a lot of competition, and we need that competition in a market as big as Nigeria.
Yeah, so elated to see the narrative changing from stomach infrastructure to visionary leadership. And that was why I was particularly concerned during the face-off between the union and Dangote group. I think that we should encourage Dangote. This is a huge project that has invested about $23 billion in it. And this man is saying that he's thinking of expansion already. So that is the mindset an average Nigerian investor should have. 10% equity. And he's saying that he does not even want to have more than 75 equity stake in this business. So he's looking, he's thinking about how he could have an inclusive venture, and he's also thinking about bringing in the Middle East investors into this. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and I hope that many more investors could start thinking how we could expand our potential. And he said something that was quite instructive, that he wants to prove what a refinery can do in this country. I think leaders should begin to think in this direction, if you ask me.
Absolutely. The third story in this day, Yusuf Tugal, Tinubu pursuing Nigeria's strategic autonomy amid Trump's tariffs, China ties, says world has to show respect in trade with Nigeria. You have to show respect for yourself first, isn't it?
You know, yeah. When the country was designated a country of particular concern, I said that it's reflecting a weakness in our institutional framework, and also some lapses. He is beginning to sell this narrative, but if we have the full efficiency in terms of the functionality of our institutions, we'll be able to drive this narrative more effectively by having a strong and astute ambassador in the country. So he's now trying to manage a situation where the world powers, the US and the China, will not box us into a Minecraft situation. This is very good. And he has been able to outline Nigeria's potential. We are rich in gas, oil, mineral resources, and our potential is running to almost 230 million by now, and which is expected to also skyrocket before 2050. So all these are assets that we can use to negotiate this issue. Because I've always asked the question, where do Nigeria stand in this tariff war, in this global market war? And I think that it is time that we need to take a stand on this. But the question now is that, is the federal government aligned with this kind of narrative? What is the Federal Ministry of Finance doing? Who is the coordinating Minister of the Economy and the Minister of Finance? What are they doing with in this? We need to take a stand, because the world is really fast evolving and fast changing.
So the stand is that when you listen to the Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke, in all the public fora she's been in, whether it's locally and internationally, she's talking about Nigeria striking out, looking for new markets, expanding, trade channels, and building more partnerships and friendships all over the world. The US or United States is not the only country in the world. There are so many opportunities.
Absolutely.
The most important thing is to have an organized country that has a vision of where it's going and has a direction, is consistent in applying or implementing its policies. If you take the countries within BRICS, for instance, only BRICS, or even within Africa, what's the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement?
We need to explore that. Take that alone. That was what I was about to say.
That alone is a big market for Nigeria.
Yeah, because if we look at the level of intra-African trade, it's still relatively low, 13%.
Yes.
So we need to explore what we have within Africa, and it's a lot cheaper and cost-effective for us to drive that narrative.
Absolutely. Let's move to the Daily Times this morning. Reps to probe $460 million Abuja CCTV project as insecurity soars. Lawmakers are demanding an investigation into this due to the concerns about public safety. There have been kidnappings and violent crime in the city of Abuja, as well as road accidents. So this CCTV project was funded with a Chinese loan during the President Jonathan administration. Apparently, the project was a flop because a lot of it does not work now. So there was massive investment with minimal results, and that's a common occurrence across the public sector in Nigeria.
I'm worried when it comes to National Assembly probe, and because many of it do not sail through to that resolution stage. Many of these investigations do not see the light of the day. And when you look at the issue of the unaudited NNPC accounts, 200 trillion, that's a lot for Nigeria's economy, for managing a fragile, stable economy like Nigeria.
That's recent. We'll come to another
recent.
one.
So I'm just trying to say that $460 million is a huge fund that I hope that the question now is that does the National Assembly, do they have the political will? Do they have the mandate and the resources to sail through this investigation so that the public could have confidence in them as the temple of democracy in the country? So the National Assembly need to do more than just serving us an expose of what has gone wrong, to being able to drive this investigation to a definitive end. Because look at what's happening in Abuja now. It has come under it's like a capital under siege now. We don't want to start listing the number of insecurity breaches that we've had so far.
All right.
Our Rise New staff being a victim too.
All right. I mean, it exposes, the lack of contract management or oversight and follow-up. And just a total inefficiency in the way things are run. But apart from the CCTV cameras as well, when you look at the street lighting, the other day the minister was discussing about street lighting and the fact that Abuja needs to be lit. It does, because the darkness in the evenings, especially at night, is something really that allows the criminals to go on to continue to commit crimes against citizens. So these are very, very basic services that do not take a lot to deliver.
I would always link insecurity to underdevelopment. It's a catch-22 situation. They are intertwined, if you ask me.
All right, let's move to another newspaper, Daily Sun. In Daily Sun, election petition, Senate now wants INEC to prove no rigging. This is part of discussions in the ongoing electoral reform exercise. It means that the burden of proof will now be on the Independent National Electoral Commission in a case where a candidate brings up a litigation case against the other candidate. The reason being that they say that INEC conducts the elections, is in possession of the materials, and must prove the conduct was lawful. INEC must be held accountable, they insist. It's going to be a shift if this law passes, if this goes through. When the burden of proof now falls on INEC, it will underscore the Commission's responsibility to demonstrate that it conducted the election in full compliance with the law and transparency and due process. So it means that it will compel INEC to maintain accurate records and evidence of proper conduct.
Yeah, but I hope that the National Assembly and its electoral reform is not falling into the fallacy of petito principi, and that's begging the question. Because INEC has always been a party to end every electoral petition. There's no way you could have a petition that INEC would not be a party to that prosecution stage. So, well, if I don't know, they need to really come out to really be specific on what they mean by INEC coming up with the burden of proof, other than INEC, the role that we've known that INEC plays during election petitions. So
we will have more details in the coming days. However, one thing to note is that one of the problems that have arisen during litigation is that most times it's difficult to get the records from INEC. So there's postponement, there are excuses, and they have all the records. So what they are saying now is that since you have the record, then you are the one to prove. Because it then means that the litigator does not have to be running up and down, running after INEC or fighting for INEC to release the materials that is in its possession that will prove that an election is either rigged or was properly conducted.
So my position is this, that why do we have to wait till an election is rigged when we have an option of adopting the electronic transfer of result that would show the real-time and accurate voting situation from the voting poll to the data transfer unit. So I think that rather than looking at this, they should think of how to strengthen INEC and adopt and really come up with an electoral reform that would show a transparent electoral process and that will restore the integrity and the sanctity of the ballots.
We're saying the same thing. If this pressure is mounted on INEC, so they have no choice but to make sure that those elections are conducted properly, that you're transmitting results, that you're not diverting people's will, you know, and the votes of people. That's essentially what it means. We don't know how this will work. However, you know, you just have to try to make efforts.
And they need to strengthen the INEC capacity. That's
all right. Let's see Daily Independent. So we're going back to the oil sector now. Reps probe $850 billion unremitted crude oil export proceeds. The amount in question was unaccounted for between 1996 and 2014 and is said to be one of the country's biggest financial leakage. Operators in the oil sector have been accused of withholding as much as 40 to 45% of Nigeria's oil earnings, and that is in contravention of the law mandating full repatriation of proceeds within 90 days for oil exports and 180 days for non-oil exports. So the lawmakers want a forensic review of this period. Again, deep-rooted lapses, weak oversight mechanisms, and this has gone unchecked for years. But apart from the oil sector, the lawmakers also spoke of the incidents in the non-oil sector, such as the export of solid minerals and other commodities. Very low compliance with the law.
Well, we hope that this the tax reform system that is to take off by 2026 as Nigeria Revenue Service will be able to address many of these leakages, because it's very depressing, if you ask me. It's a very huge, depressing and scary statistics, and I think that we need to fix that leakages. We need to plug those leakages. It's really too much, and that's why the World Bank and the World Financial System lamented about the huge revenue leakages coming from Nigeria.
But why do we even have to talk about the World Bank and the IMF? We don't need them to say these things. We already know what's happening within our country. Well, it is in our interest to make sure that these leakages are stopped. Yeah. And to think that usually the president is the Minister of Petroleum, and then you have a Minister of State. So they are aware of what's happening. So
that goes full cycle to what I was trying to say yesterday, that this we need to have a strong performance system. And that immunity clause, I beg to say, it needs to be removed as a stumbling block in the nation's accountability and performance system. So if we have all that, people, our leaders will be more accountable, because this looks like begging the question. We allow many of these things to happen, and you know that in most cases, you hardly recoup the amount that has been drained off the pipeline.
Absolutely. I think we have one more story. Let's talk about PDP. So the conventions are supposed to hold November 15. So there is already a race for the chairmanship, the national chairmanship. We have like three top contenders. There's Sule Lamido, there's Ahmed Makarfi, and Tanimu Yakubu. All of them, or three of those men, very high-profile figures. Both Lamido and Makarfi have been governors in Jigawa State and Kaduna State. They're party men, loyal party men. Have been
from the northwest.
Yes, have been in, but well, it has been zoned to the northwest now. So that means the North Central has lost, and it's unfortunate because the North Central was supposed to have the position before, and Omar Damagu has stayed in that position up until now. So, but the point is that these are figures that it was going to be a tough race between the three of them, because all of them have, you know, heavy qualifications to grab that seat.
Yeah, I'm now compelled to look beyond what happens after the election, after the convention, what will remain of the PDP.
Yes.
I don't think the party has that luxury to go through a keenly contested election. I would suggest that politically, as a political correspondent, that they should work out a consensus. Thank God they're from 3 zones. They are all friends. They are all eminently qualified. Sule Lamido was one of the founding fathers of PDP. He was one of the group of 12 that founded PDP in 1998. That now metamorphosed into a party built on national consensus. And we also know McAfee as being also the former governor of Kaduna State. Is also eminently qualified, and also the current national secretary.
Very measured personality.
Board of Trustees.
Very measured, yes.
Also, he was the governor of Kaduna State at some point. And we also have Saminu Turaki, who is also was one time a minister during the Jonathan administration, and he's been with the party. He's been able to establish his clout and grit as a party man. So all these three people need to come together. They can't, because the party is already at the verge of an implosion. So they don't need to deceive them. I don't think that there is that luxury of resources for them to have a divided party after the convention is available for them. And
whoever wins, a very big task after the national convention ahead of them. Let's look at the international headlines. Let's go to Cameroon. They had elections, and the country is in the middle of a crisis right now because the 92-year-old Paul Biya, who is the president, trying to extend his tenure, 43 years already in office. You have the opposition fighting against that. The opposition has asked people to come out on the streets and to not accept the results that will be declared. They had declared their own results. They clashed with the police in the streets, and then we're expecting that anytime soon, between today and the next couple of days, the results will be announced. The question is, do the Cameroonians have what it takes to withstand Paul Biya? And the opposition leader as well, Chiroma Bakare.
Yeah, we have that ominous signs of state capture, state government and institutional capture in Cameroon. We cannot deny that fact. Chiroma Bakare, the opposition leader that is claiming victory, would need to also prove, and maybe at this point they might need some measure of foreign intervention to actually review the credibility of what was released, because there have been so much questions about Paul Biya being declared the provisional winner of the Cameroonian election. Okay,
and finally, Financial Times on the international front, Russian raid, deadly drone strike Ukraine, so no ceasefire deal in sight, and then The Sun, asylum boat fast, ongoing crisis with asylum in the United Kingdom. I think that's all we can take on the paper review today.
Always a delight to review the papers with you.